Thank you very much for all coming today. My name's Colin Stevens. I'm the publisher of EU Reporter, and I'd like to thank you very much for your interest in the first of what we hope will be monthly events discussing issues relating to the EU and friends of the EU and neighbours of the EU. Today, the first of our discussions is about energy security, as I'm sure you know, and concerns the European Union's deepening energy cooperation with Azerbaijan. It's a partnership that's become a vital part of the EU's requirement for a secure and reliable supply of energy, both an immediate need for oil and especially gas, and also in the future for clean electricity from renewable resources. We're particularly pleased to be joined by Elnur Soltanov, the Deputy Energy Minister for Azerbaijan. Thank you very much for coming, sir. His ministry is of course, vital to both the work to increase gas exports to Europe and to the development of Azerbaijan's green energy program. Next to him is Stoyan Novakov, an EU transport and logistics expert. He recently served as Deputy Minister for Transport and Communication in the Bulgarian government. And who knows, within days he may well return to high office in Sofia when they form another government. If I had a prediction, I'm fairly certain you'll see him back in some high office very soon. Welcome. Thank you. And he's actually taken the time to fly over from Bulgaria to be with us, so thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for the invitation.
Dr. Maurizio Gheri is an EU Marie Curie Fellow and a former NATO analyst.
It's Jerry in Italian, but it's okay.
With a special interest in energy security and green transition issues. And finally, but not least, Andrew Folksman is now with the climate technology investment firm Turquoise International. He's held senior energy policy roles with the European Union and with the Council of Baltic States. And our event today is moderated by Nick Powell, who is political editor of EU Reporter. And I will hand you over to Nick for the discussion. There's going to be a panel discussion first, and then we'll open it up to all of you to make contributions if you wish. And we hope you'll manage to stay with us for a bit of lunch and a drink afterwards and continue networking and discussing everything. So thank you very much. Nick, I hand over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Colin. Thank you for that comprehensive introduction. So I won't say much more. I know you're here to listen to this panel. I am reminded, obviously, as Colin was saying, we are going to talk doubtless a lot about gas and sourcing that from Azerbaijan, which has obviously shot up the agenda. Also about renewables and the potential there as we make the green transition. I am, though, reminded of the old oil industry saying that we don't have problems, we only have opportunities, sometimes very severe opportunities. And so let's discuss those opportunities. So, Minister, if we could start with you, please.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this great event, and I'm honored to be part of this, to be invited to share views from Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, as you know, literally it means land of fire, and it is related to, of course, we want to find some mysterious reasons behind that, but apparently it's about oil and gas that has been seeping out of the ground for thousands of years and burning naturally, which made Azerbaijan actually, we believe, land of Zoroaster. We believe Zoroaster is coming from Azerbaijan. In fact, from southern parts of Azerbaijan probably. And for many years, hundreds of years, fire temples in Azerbaijan has been a site of visitation for pilgrims for all the way from India. The Parsi community in India, we have photos of that, and in Azerbaijan, you can actually go to those fire temples. And our energy saga, though, starts in modern era, of course, in 19th century. So that with such a fury that by 1901, Azerbaijan produces more than 50% of all the oil produced in the world. And we believe that the first industrial oil well was dug in Azerbaijan, not in Pennsylvania, not by Colonel Drake, but in Azerbaijan. And by 1941, when the Second World War was going on and Soviet Union was started to be invaded, 80% of Soviet military machine was fueled by Azerbaijani oil. And we take a pride in that. We have been playing that role in the defeat of Nazism. Of course, this is much less important than the fact that Azerbaijan lost 300,000 of its sons and daughters to that in that war. Fast forward to 1990s, the amazing thing about Azerbaijan, and very briefly, I'm trying to set some kind of historical context, and then we'll go to some technical issues and numbers. When the Soviet Union was collapsing, Azerbaijani National Liberation Movement very correctly defined oil and energy resources of Azerbaijan as the thing to be utilized to bring in interest in Azerbaijan that will make its sovereignty and sovereignty not to be violated again. Because the hard experience of 1918, when we established First Democratic Republic in the East, and which we lost after 2 years. And so this time the idea was that we should do our best to make sure that our sovereignty gained this time in 1991 will continue forever. And they correctly identified energy resources of Azerbaijan as a means to that end. So if we utilize it correctly, if we bring in correct corporations, and if we build our pipelines through correct routes, by passing maybe certain countries so that we have a final say on that. That could be a guarantee, one of the major guarantees of our independence. And it worked. They took a great deal of risk, especially late Haydar Aliyev, when he signs this deal in 1994, which we call the contract of the century. There were assassinations of high political people in high political positions. There was coup attempt, but eventually we pulled that off. And that first wave, which started with oil, in fact, is continuing to this day. And I will kind of try to tell you how that first stage with oil, correctly calculated, cleverly calculated risks that we have taken now became or provided this fertile ground that we are keeping to benefit from. And I was talking to my friends, my colleagues, before this event started, that some other countries who did not take that risk at that time in 1990s are continuing maybe to pay the price for that. But we have been benefiting from that, and we are glad that along with Azerbaijan, we are benefiting our partners along the route. Then what happens in early 2000s, Azerbaijan, building on its experience with oil, now starts its natural gas saga, right? And that started with the first gas to be exported in Azerbaijan in 2006 and 2007, followed the same route and the same logic, right? It was the same route, Georgia, Turkey, and then European continent. And that was, again, not just a technical policy choice. It was the foundational understanding of Azerbaijan's sovereignty drive, Azerbaijan's attempt to save its independence forever. And these things are very related. And that's why when you try to understand Azerbaijan, what exactly we are doing, why we are doing what we are doing, this historical context, I think, should be taken into consideration. And then, very logically and very nicely, Azerbaijan starting the third phase of its energy revolution. And this is now related to renewable energy. And this very kind of nicely complements what we have done. Started with oil, moved on to cleaner version of fossil fuels, natural gas, and now with renewable energy. Now let me go back to some numbers, technical issues. Regarding oil, we continue producing it. We continue producing both oil and oil products in Azerbaijan. At the major route, you know, it ends in Turkey, in Mediterranean port. We are supplying oil mostly to European countries. Most of our oil lands in Italy, actually. A significant portion of that goes to Israel. We dearly appreciate our relationship with Israel in many, many aspects of the term. And oil products, Azerbaijan produces oil products which are exported through Black Sea terminal. We have Kulevi. We own Kulevi terminal in Georgia on the Black Sea coast. And from there, it goes to different countries along the Black Sea. And also in Turkey, Azerbaijan invested more than $15 billion to build oil refinery, as well as invested in petrochemicals industry. That helps Turkey, our partner, in terms of balance of payments. Now they are producing domestically what they have been importing, and also that's another conduit for the products of Azerbaijani origin all the way to different parts of the world. But main target market is European market. Regarding natural gas, we keep increasing the production of natural gas. This year we expect to produce 47 BCM, billion cubic meters of gas. About 25 BCM of that gas will be exported. You know that Georgia receives our gas. Georgia this year is going to receive about 3.3 billion cubic meters of gas from Azerbaijan. Our brotherly Turkey will receive about more than 10 BCM of natural gas. By the way, Georgia receives almost all of its natural gas from Azerbaijan, almost all of its gas. And about 1/3 of that comes for free because they are taking commission of the pipelines that pass through them, and we appreciate that. And to me, as we are going to be unfolding this discussion, Georgia-Azerbaijan relationship is an example that could be set for other countries in the Caucasus, including our not so easy relationship with, unfortunately, Armenia because of the occupation of Azerbaijan lands for many years. To me, I'm digressing here, I understand, but probably I should defer that to some other discussions. And more than, as you know, so initially the Southern Gas Corridor was supposed to provide 10 BCM of gas all the way to Europe. About 8 of that goes usually to Italy, 1 goes to Bulgaria, 1 goes to Greece. And by the way, I believe Bulgarian consumption also is around 3 BCM or so. This is 1/3 of the consumption of Bulgaria. And then what happened last year was that when Europe was needing more gas, we tested and saw that some of our pipelines can take more gas, right? So TAP was calculated to take in 10 BCM, but apparently it could have taken, and it did take about 12 BCM, which we happily provided for European spot markets. And something similar to that will continue. So we are already, what I'm saying is that, as you know, in July last year, there was this agreement, memorandum of understanding signed between Azerbaijani president and president of the European Commission, which, among other things, envisages the doubling of the amount of 10 BCM of gas by 2027 to Europe. We are already increasing that, right? We are already at 12 BCM level, definitely last year, and something similar will continue this year as well. And beyond that, we probably will talk about this expansion, how it's going, because literally about 10 days ago, we were here. Minister Shahbazov, Energy Minister of Azerbaijan, was here because there's this energy dialogue between Energy Minister of Azerbaijan and Euro Commissioner for Energy Affairs, Kadri Simpson. And they continued that dialogue, and it is going very well. And we are still hopeful that this expansion, an extension of Southern Gas Corridor will happen. There are 2 major routes that we envisage. One of them is Solidarity Ring. As you have witnessed a couple of days ago, there was this agreement signed between Azerbaijan, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, and Slovenia. So that's kind of, in a sense, symbolically revitalization of previous Nabucco route, in a sense, right? And second probable route is Balkan route through perhaps Ionian Adriatic pipeline, which starts in Albania, goes to Montenegro, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and ends in Croatia. So these are the general plans, and we are working very hard on that. Azerbaijan does have resources to increase the capacity beyond that, beyond 10 BCM. SOCAR, our state-owned company, has done some work, and we presented that to our European partners. So clearly we do have that. But at the same time, it requires the expansion of the pipeline system. We have 3 pipeline systems, as you know. In general, probably it will require about $20 billion investment, both upstream and midstream. And we are working with European institutions, including financial institutions, to understand the terms of financing of that. And at the same time, it's very important, as you know, with oil, things are easy. Get your oil to open seas and you will have a buyer. With gas, it's different, right? You have to find buyers first and then work backwards, build pipelines, and start digging the well. I have a friend working at a US university. She always jokes that oil deal is like dating somebody, but gas is like marriage, right? It requires commitment. It requires mutual commitment, and we are looking forward, and things are unfolding very well. And then perhaps the last part of my introductory remarks. Again, we are nicely and we are very happy to move along towards renewable energy, which is the call and challenge of our modern day. What made us very excited was this report by International Finance Corporation. In their latest report, they clearly stated that the offshore Caspian wind resources, they amount to about, in Azerbaijani section of course, they amount to 157 gigawatts. Now for perspective, this is 20 times more than we are going to be ever using domestically. Right? So that means that, and also, as you know, offshore wind is a little expensive, so you have to build it at a scale to bring down the price. And when you build it at a scale, that means that you are going to be producing more than Azerbaijan can consume, which opens the gates of almost forcefully for export. And then we came together, and by the way, this agreement I mentioned between presidents of the European Commission and Azerbaijan also mentions, so there are two major pillars. One is about the expansion of the gas volumes. Second is about renewable energy and its export to in the European direction. And we are looking forward to that. And what happened in December, I'm sure that most of you noticed, we signed a deal between Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and Hungary, which is about exporting Azerbaijani green energy from offshore Caspian reserves especially, all the way to Georgia, to Black Sea, under a subsea cable, which lands in Romania, goes to Hungary and other parts of Europe. And Bulgaria expressed its willingness to join. Probably they are going to be joining the same agreement in less than a month's time. So we expect to have this meeting, ministerial meeting. At that meeting, Bulgaria is expected to join that. We nicely call this new project as Caspian EU Green Energy Corridor. And it very nicely complements with the Southern Gas Corridor. So we had Southern Gas Corridor with cleaner fossil fuel, and now we are working on Green Energy Corridor. Of course, feasibility studies should tell us how to proceed, and we are finalizing terms of reference. And with the agreement of all these 4 + 1, 5 countries now, we are going to be going forward. And I think in a year's time, we will have a much clearer picture on how to move forward. But the investors, green energy investors, are in Azerbaijan. They are working hard on their part to make this happen. And also what, again, another exciting thing is that we believe that beyond green electricity, we will be also producing some green gases. It could be in Azerbaijan. But also it's possible that we export green electricity to, for instance, Romania, and green gases are produced there and then enters the European market. Therefore, and the great thing, and I'm finalizing now, about renewable energy is that in Azerbaijan, more than 95% of our electricity is produced by burning natural gas. So it's very good. We are not burning any coal like many developed countries. That's very friendly to the environment. But at the same time, it also means that any renewable energy investment, any energy efficiency investment, which is also something that we are taking very seriously, is bound to release more gas, right? Which is going to become additional source for us to export, right? So you are basically killing 2 birds with 1 stone by making Azerbaijan more efficient, and by investing in renewable energy, we are actually releasing more gas. And then besides new gas fields and or using the existing gas fields more intensively, that becomes another source. And third source, of course, will be our neighboring countries, if they are willing to use Azerbaijan as transit country. As my President Ilham Aliyev, always says, we are ready to be part of the deal and support with all the resources, the processes, with all the resources that we have. So this will be my first introductory remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Stoyan, it's the energy's there. It's all to do with the capacity, and perhaps more importantly, the cost of creating the capacity to get it to Europe.
The capacity is a very big problem, as we discussed previously. Let me introduce myself. I'm transport professional more than 23 years. And in the previous government, I was leading very interesting project. It was called Persian Gulf, Black Sea. It's the same corridor for green energy, for gas, but it's related with the transportation facilities. Now it's getting more and more important because you know that from the north side, Russia is closed now, and all cargoes from Pacific and Indian Ocean will pass through the Caspian region. That was my primary. But now we are speaking about energy and capacity, transit capacity of gas. And as we discussed, only 1/3 of required quantity is receiving by Europe. So we must have more capacity, building new pipes, raising the capacity of existing ones with pumping stations. So we must have something very interesting like solution, because the need only of Italy is 72 BCM a year, right?
Exactly. A lot.
Yes, so it's less than a half of the future possible the transit quantity. So very big problem, and we are working on it. As my colleague said, Azerbaijanis are very clever and they are proactive for any project. They are also part of this project, Persian Gulf, Black Sea. There are 6 countries involved. It's Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, Iran, Bulgaria, and Greece in this project. So in any project that moves on, Azerbaijanis are in. So very proactive and ready to collaborate. And it's great that they are creating opportunity to create a real gas hub in Azerbaijan with Trans-Caspian. That's still project, but maybe soon it can bring the full potential of the region, which is enormous. You can think that Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan, the potential is more than
20 trillion for Azerbaijan.
and 50 for Turkmenistan. Trillions. Yes. So it's enormous potential for Europe to have good deliveries, sustainable. LNG is okay, but when the price drops, what we gonna do? So regarding the pipelines, the transits, I'm open for questions, and I'll give the word to my colleague from Italy.
Thank you, Maurizio. Well, we've just had a hint of your expertise there, and also, of course, I'm glad we have some from Italy, which at the moment is the primary consumer of gas shipments from Azerbaijan to the EU, but take it away.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to have me here. Yes, I'm from Italy, but I'm also from Europe, so I'm a European citizen. So let me introduce a little bit before, at the geostrategic and geopolitical level, the situation that we are having now. As they introduced me, I'm in my sabbatical year between the NATO work that I've been doing in the last few years and the next work that I will do for the European Union Commission as a Marie Curie Fellow. Now, European Union woke up finally after more than 10 years that they have the Eastern Partnership program and the strategy for the South Caucasus to realize that energy security is a national security. In the academic world and also in the military world, we compare energy security to military security and economic security, meaning is a crucial element of national security. Unfortunately, politicians sometimes they forget about that and they see it only when we miss it, when we don't have that energy security. So what the International Energy Agency says about energy security? The energy security is the constant availability of resources at affordable prices. This required, first of all, the control of the market and the prices, require also the security of the infrastructure to distribute, and this is a topic that in the future, maybe for another conference we can talk about, and require the diversification of the resources. And here comes the South Caucasus region. You know, in the last few years I've been working for the Mediterranean region. In the Latin, Mediterranean means the sea among land. I said earlier to the ministry that I call it the South Caucasus, the land among seas, meaning the maritime land. What does it mean? It means that to connect regions and the heartland of Central Asia at energy level but not only at energy level, at transportation level. We have a ministry here of transportation, is the crucial region of the, what we call it in the geostrategic terms, the world island. And who is the bridge to that region? Azerbaijan. Because Azerbaijan is the country on the Caspian Sea that would allow the European continent to connect with the rest of Asia. So this not only at energy level, at all levels. Now, the point here is this. We have to look, at least in the military world, we look always the next 20, 40, 60 years. We do strategic foresight analysis. We look at the potential of the countries. And Azerbaijan, as you said, there is 20 trillion cubic meters of reserves. Turkmenistan has 50, the fourth one after Iran, Russia, and Qatar in the world. And we need to look at the potential also for green transition. Because, as the ministry said, 157 gigawatt of offshore wind on the Caspian Sea is a lot. Now, the point is you have to distribute also, so you need investment for the electric grids, for the pipelines for gas. Now, in Italy, we have a wonderful relations with Azerbaijan for different reasons. We have a love affair, I don't know why, but there is some type of good relationship. And we have actually Italy-Azerbaijan Chamber of Commerce. We are the first trade partner of Azerbaijan. 40% of the exportation of Azerbaijan goes to Italy, not only energy. We have an agreement on multilateral relationships on everything, agriculture, tourism, even wine. We have good wine, you also have good wine. And now we need to see how this relationship can develop. Because as my colleague said here, we need 72 billion cubic meters per year. We produce only 3, almost nothing. And from Russia, we got 30 until recently. 20 from Algeria, 7 from Azerbaijan. Now, according to the EU Repower Plan, we need to stop the Russian gas by 2030. Also, International Energy Agency said 10 points, among which Azerbaijan and Norway could be the sum of the diversification of the substitute. But to do that, we will need more investments because we know that the capacity of the southern Caucasus pipeline is 25, 30. The ministry will explain later, maybe more specifically. The TANAP, the Trans-Anatolian, is 25. The TAP is just 10. It can increase, but it's not enough because for Italy, 72 is a lot. And not only for Italy, European Union will need many more. I think it's around 400 billion cubic meters that European Union need. So I'm looking to the potentiality. I'm looking to the possibility, as someone else said, at the Trans-Caspian, for example, undersea pipeline. Again, with the rest of consequences, including the security of the pipeline that we have to guarantee in the future, because more and more attacks can come. You know, when you have potentiality to produce more and to distribute more, you are also more possible. There are more possibilities for being challenged and threatened, in particular in undersea, where, for example, the mines, as we saw in the North Stream, can happen maybe in every moment, and problems will come. So there are a lot of possibilities, I think. We need the strategic vision in the last 20, 40 years from European Union, because Azerbaijan can accompany not only up to the 2050, which is the moment in which European Union will have to be net zero and carbon free, but also further with the green transition. So I'm looking forward to the questions and to your points and to discuss more with the colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, we've heard more about marriage and love affairs than I was expecting, but Andrew surprised me further.
So, thank you very much indeed. I would like to start with just an observation about Azerbaijan and its role in geopolitics, or the way it has mastered geopolitics, because geopolitics plays a key role. I have been advisor to the president of Latvia, and Latvia is also a small country. So we have known what it means to be a small country in the geopolitics of big countries. And let me just say, and this is going to be very brief, not long, but really, hood up, chapeau to Azerbaijan, because it has mastered a very difficult geopolitical situation over the last 30 years amazingly well. So I think that is attributable very probably to President Aliyev himself and to his foreign ministry staff. It is amazing, and you're still doing it now, and this panel is proof of that. You're looking for the next steps. within a very difficult geopolitical situation, so bravo. Now the green transition. The green transition, that's my current job. I'm working for venture capital in London, working with technologies in the green transition. And a question we're always asking ourselves is, when is it going to come? You just, Maurizio, you just said 2050. Well, I'm going to question that. I'm going to question that number. I think it might come very much quicker. We've seen a bumpy ride. We've seen the collapse of the Kyoto Protocol. We've seen a successful 2020 strategy by the EU, which has then actually slowed down. And if you think about it, the low-lying fruit has been picked. So we have to do something. Somebody has to do something very quickly. What are the oil and gas majors and OPEC doing? They are also hedging their bets. They are going, as Azerbaijan is doing, looking towards some green activity, but it's on the side a little bit. It's not really being moved into core business at this stage. So how quickly is it going to come? I'd like to take an example from another sector, tobacco. The tobacco industry, for many years, spent lots of effort to tell the world, well, it's not really so dangerous smoking. No? But what did we see? After those 30 years, in the late 90s, a sudden collapse. I mean, when I saw this, I was very surprised, and the impression almost was that the Philip Morrises of this world were also surprised, that the collapse was very sudden, because suddenly policy support, political support collapsed, legislation forced the industry in this direction. So could that happen to oil and gas? I venture to say it could. So I'm going to be, shall we say, the devil's advocate to the 2050 plan. It might come much faster and surprise all of us. The oil and gas companies, I think, feel this because the investments on their part in future oil and gas resources and in future oil and gas infrastructure is very modest. I mean, now, for the last year, because of Russia-Ukraine, there has been some increase, but it's still very modest. Finally, technology. Which technology is going to help us? Of course, we all know solar and wind, but I'd like to mention two other technologies, one of which oil and gas companies especially have been working on for over 20 years. That's carbon capture and storage. And those departments in BP, Shell, other oil and gas majors are actually quite big departments. They are keeping that expertise because there may be a stage where it might actually pay to double the price of generation using oil and gas, which is possible. You can do clean generation with oil and gas if you make the generation production facilities much more expensive with a carbon capture plant. So carbon capture, we believe, at Turquoise, is going to be one key technology. And another one, which, well, I call it emerging, but actually it's been around and talked about and worked on, also with EU support, and that's hydrogen. And hydrogen promises to be an energy carrier, basically. And that might be actually a very attractive option in the future for Azerbaijan. If you look at what is actually happening during the last 2 or 3 years, the European ports are looking at facilities to transport, to store hydrogen in, well, not just gaseous, but also as ammonia. So there is a whole industry building up there. So this is the other technology I would put our money on, and we are putting our money on, by the way, and that is around hydrogen, the fuel cell side, but also the infrastructure and what that needs. Thank you very much.
if you're the devil's advocate or on the side of the angels. But plenty of food for thought there. Minister, would you like to pick up on any of the points you've heard?
Thank you very much. Yes, I would like to thank the kind words by all the presenters to the address of Azerbaijan, and I think, yes, our leadership has done a lot to deserve it. I mean, Azerbaijan is not today, we have huge resources, but if you look at the amount of oil and gas Azerbaijan produces, it's not that big. But I think Azerbaijan stands out in terms of getting much more per barrel of oil and per cubic meter of gas than many, many other countries. I think that really what makes Azerbaijan stand out. We are utilizing our, we are not the first, we are not the second, we don't have the 10% of the world global production in terms of gas and oil. In fact, it's around 1%. But again, the targeted use and clever use creates much more impact than many more resources that other countries might have. I think that's really should be noted. Second thing about the transit possibilities. I mean, if for any reason somebody wants to traverse between Europe and Asia, and for any reason they want to avoid Russia and Iran, there is only one overland route, and that's Azerbaijan. So you have to go through Azerbaijan. We understand that, and Azerbaijan is also developing its transport routes through its country, revitalizing the Silk Route. And at the same time, it offers opportunities in terms of oil and gas. On the other side of the Caspian, we have Kazakhstan, which is a huge oil producer, and we have Turkmenistan, which has fourth largest gas reserves in the world. What is new is that Kazakhstan currently has some issues with the evacuation, given the war nearby in Ukraine. They have some issues with the evacuation of the oil resources, and they signed a deal with Azerbaijan to bring about 1.5 million tons of oil will be coming from Kazakhstan to Azerbaijan and to be evacuated through our BTC pipeline, which again starts in Azerbaijan, goes to Georgia, goes to Turkey, to the Mediterranean coast. And that was very successful. Again, it got realized in early 2000s against so many odds. And now we understand how important it was in terms of for Azerbaijan and for our neighbors. And our Kazakhstani brothers are definitely, we are inviting them to utilize that. And they are planning to increase that amount to more than 20 million tons of oil per year, which our pipeline system has capacity to carry. So we are very glad to be part of that. Currently, what will happen, it will be from Kazakhstan to Azerbaijan, they are going to be carried by small tankers because especially northern part of Caspian is very shallow. But who knows, like in the future, if there are some other infrastructure projects, because it might make sense. The distance between Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan, I mean, the width of the Caspian is about 300 to 400 kilometers, right? It's not that huge. It's not that deep, especially in northern part. The southern part of Caspian is very deep, around 1 kilometers. But our parts, especially the parts connecting Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan, are not. The same thing happens with Turkmenistan. In fact, for many years, we have been carrying Turkmenistani oil in small amounts to Azerbaijan and from Azerbaijan to European markets or world markets. Because I think one of the curses of the region is the fact of its being landlocked, right? So it creates a lot of difficulties. And in fact, that's why those geopolitical challenges are becoming so important. But again, it's being landlocked, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you make of it, right? And I think we made of it something very useful for ourselves and for our neighbors. But Turkmenistan has sizable gas resources. Currently, they are mainly exporting to China and Russia. And as Mr. President of Azerbaijan has expressed before, we as a transit country are ready to support. But listen, we had our gas, and regarding our gas, we walked around, we built a team of supporters, regional, global supporters. We brought in interests, we found buyers, and we eventually pushed through and pulled off and realized our projects despite odds, despite naysayers. We expect the same thing from those who want to do the same, and we are going to be supporting them. But probably when it is not our gas and when it's not our oil, it won't be very correct for us to take the initiative. So it's not ours, but we are ready to support in any way possible, and definitely as a transit country. And our experience, our pipeline infrastructure is definitely capable of, in its present capacity, oil-wise, I don't think we have any problems, right? Any additional Kazakhstani oil that might come through Azerbaijan, we are able to do transit because we have excess capacity. And Azerbaijani oil, probably we won't see significant increases because of given the overall environment, energy, and global energy environment. We are more relying on gas and our gas resources, and we are working on expanding those resources. Regarding the expansion of the pipeline system, yes, so the pipeline system, TANAP is actually designed for 10, but scalable to 20 very easily. The pipeline, the strength of the pipelines are designed such that, so adding compressors, you can easily go to 20 BCM. TANAP also likewise, it was designed to be scalable to 31 BCM. So by adding compressors, you can solve that problem as well. But there's a third leg from Azerbaijan to Turkish border through Georgia, South Caucasus pipeline. That will require some additional pipeline system, which is also doable. So we can easily double the amounts through all these pipelines. We are also working on some other possibilities because Azerbaijan not only choose its routes very correctly so that it's not becoming it's not manipulated by other countries. I think that was a good choice. Second thing Azerbaijan did is diversity, right? We diversified. We have 3 oil pipelines, for instance. And things happen. This is the Caucasus, right? Sometimes bombs go off during the, as you know, in 2020, in summer, when we had this issue, Armenian border provocation-wise, so and then the war started. During the war, sometimes the rockets fell as close as 10 meters of Baku-Tbilisi pipeline. But again, we always had some other options in case something happens. And as I said, from time to time, those things happened. And in fact, I remember that in 1990s, Azerbaijani diplomats in the United States, in Washington, D.C., in their license plate, the motto was, happiness is multiple pipelines. So this is the philosophy. The same thing goes with gas. What I'm bringing it to is that we are also looking at the possibility of maybe exporting natural gas through Black Sea. Because we do have those pipeline systems, they are working very well. We are thinking about expanding them, but also Black Sea could be another option to go to certain markets. And also along this, I should, and they could end up in Romania, in Bulgaria, for instance, as LNG. And feasibility study is underway to understand what the possibilities could be. And also on top of that, I should add that besides Italy, Bulgaria, and Greece that we are providing gas to. Recently we signed agreements with Romania, and it's expected to receive about 1 BCM of gas this year. And they are already receiving a certain portion of that gas, and we believe that some volumes of that gas end up in some neighboring countries as well, which have some issues, difficulties in terms of energy security, and that makes us very happy. And Azerbaijan, of course, is not intent, this is not political issue for us. This is in the interest of Azerbaijan, and it's very nice to see that what is good for Azerbaijani energy security is good for the energy security of our European partners. That makes us very happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, happiness is multiple pipelines. I was in Kazakhstan when I heard that said with some feeling. But Stoyan, are we heading for a happy place?
Yes, as my colleague said, more pipelines, more happiness. This is regarding an old project. If you remember South Stream, it was from Russia to Bulgaria. Now not possible to be built, but it can be built from Georgia to Bulgaria to double the capacity of the deliveries, because Black Sea is practically Europe. First, and second, let's think about that all gas passed through Turkey, where is Botash, the company, who controls all the deliveries, and most of the capacity is already taken from Gazprom, reserved capacity. So new pipeline maybe will be a very good solution in diversity as well. So that's the question that we are discussing at the moment, and it will be great if we can continue with the discussion. If any questions.
Yeah.
You may have other points you want to pick up on.
Yeah, follow up what Andrew said, the devil, and about the green transition that will be faster and probably we are not ready yet. I have to say that, yeah, as the minister said, that there is a lot of work they are doing in Azerbaijan. By 2030, I think they want to be 30% green energy, right? Right now there is not much, but you know, Baku means the wind city, so it's like Chicago on the lake, and there is a big potentiality there, as the minister said. And again, there are needs of investment, a lot of investment to pass from the land of fire to the land of wind, sea, and sun. Italy, for example, in the 90s, since the 90s, already helped Azerbaijan for the pipelines, for the, I think, upstream, midstream, and the downstream, all the processes, also the products. Why not now increase for example, the relationship in the green energy, in the renewable energy? I know that Ansaldo, for now, is selling 4 turbines for the gas, but we can do other activities. And also, for example, the smart cities. You know, the liberated area of Karabakh will have smart cities that maybe could be created. And I know that there is a project in Zangilan area, another region, between Italy and Israel to build a smart village. So all these potentialities, again, I look for potentialities, for potential. Sorry for my English that is not perfect, but you will help me if you have some synonym. That can increase, again, the relationship between Europe, and Italy in particular, and Azerbaijan, and fasten, speed the green transition that you said is probably have to become faster than 2050.
Andrew, I'll just give you a moment before we come to the questions.
Okay. Just basically, just one point to add to the discussion. When sort of starting up new business or continuing business, it's very important to understand your customer and what your customer can and cannot do. And so if as I suspect, the green transition collapse comes, and faster than we think, it will be very important, I would say, to know which of your business partners are ready and which are not. So if, for example, the example of CCS, so which countries would be ready, or which companies would be ready, who are burning gas today and may want to continue gas, are they ready to switch and add CCS plant quickly, for example? This sort of consideration, so I don't know if you've been looking at that, but that in the hypothesis that it could come quickly, that might be important.
Thank you. I'm sure people want to pick up another point, so I'll manage to work it in, but I really would like to come to the audience now. So do we have some questions? Anybody? Sir. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the very interesting presentation about the oil policy of the state of Azerbaijan. As some of you mentioned, one of the main reasons the EU turned itself to Azerbaijan was to go away from Russian gas and Russian oil. So how does the EU leadership still refer to the fact that Azerbaijan helps Russia to circumvent sanctions and through it sell Russian gas and oil to Europe? As a reminder, SOCAR has still a branch in Russia that is active and possesses some refineries in Russia.
Yes, so please.
Is that all?
Yeah, for now, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there are connections between Russia and Azerbaijan regarding the gas pipeline, but there is no gas pipeline built after the independence. So these are all Soviet pipelines that we have between Russia and Azerbaijan. And there is an agreement for some gas to be supplied, which is more technical and more about keeping the pressure, because the same happens with electricity connections between countries, right? So you have to have some kind of balancing issues all the time. And these balancing issues require some kind of flow between the countries. And if you look at the amount of Russian gas that could be coming to Azerbaijan, it's around 1 to 2% that we are producing. As I was mentioning, this year we expect to produce 47 BCM of gas. And the Russian gas that could be coming to Azerbaijan, which is not take or pay, probably will be less than 1 BCM, which is less than 2%. So in that sense, it's not a significant amount. And for domestic use, and most of the gas, if it comes, sometimes it goes in both directions. Probably it's utilized regionally, right, in regional parts of Azerbaijan. So there is nothing about Russian gas to be exported in the European direction. And as I said, these are not take or pay agreements. It depends on many things. Depending on the situation, gas pipeline pressures, it will change. Regarding oil, this is the first time I'm hearing that there is some oil going on, oil trade going on between real Azerbaijan and Russia. I will take another look at that, but we don't have. The only thing that is happening is the pipeline that goes from Azerbaijan. From Soviet times, we have this Baku-Novorossiysk pipeline. It goes from Azerbaijan to Russia and to Black Sea port, but given the war in Ukraine, that's not being utilized, understandably, and it's one of the smallest pipelines in the region. And given the distance that we have to the Black Sea, and after Black Sea you have to traverse a lot of distance, usually it's used, it's the smallest pipeline we have, and it's used much less frequently than other pipelines, but it's strictly Azerbaijani oil that passes through that. As to the other issues, I really haven't heard from even open sources that there is Azerbaijan or some other country's name has been mentioned, because after the war in Ukraine and sanctions issue, in certain countries, the trade volume went up several-fold. In our region also, in our neighborhood also, that happens with Russia and with Europeans, which is abnormal and could be explained perhaps by some traversing sanctions. Azerbaijan is not in that list. Again, from open sources, even today, I was reading how some post-Soviet countries were this suspicious several-fold increase in their trade volumes with Russia, but Azerbaijan has never been mentioned in their list, at least in the sources that I'm reading. Again, we are not anti-anything. We are for Azerbaijani independence. We are for Azerbaijan sovereignty, and I think this is what Azerbaijan is gaining respect for as well, because we are doing things for the welfare of Azerbaijanis, for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Azerbaijan. We are not against anybody. We are just for Azerbaijan, and that determines, as I was saying at the start of my presentation, that really determines our energy policy. And everything else is just a side effect of that major philosophical course. Keep Azerbaijan independent, make sure that our people are living their life in welfare. That's it.
Thank you. If the others forgive me, I might just take another question now. Okay.
Thank you. Hoş geldiniz Sayın Bakanım. Caner Can, Energy Counselor from Turkish delegation to the EU. Well, I would like to make a small correction to Mr. Minister Novakov's statement about the Gazprom's overcapacity in Turkey's transmission lines, because BOTAŞ owns and operates the transmission lines, and not a company, a foreign company, cannot book the transmission capacity in Turkey. Moreover, we signed an agreement with Bulgaria. Therefore, if it's booked by Gazprom, we cannot supply gas to Bulgaria. We already supplying gas to Bulgaria. So, as for Southern Gas Corridor, it became a reality because of, thanks to Turkey's and Azerbaijan's close cooperation. And Turkey is a big market in terms of natural gas and electricity, and thanks to Turkey's throughput capacity that we bought 6 BCM, we have the Southern Gas Corridor, TANAP pipeline. Therefore, it is mostly forgotten that Turkey is a big natural gas and electricity market in the region. Therefore, and there is a differentiation today in terms of EU Commission and EU in terms of the long-term concept, because EU believes for natural gas projects or purchases, 10 years is a long term, while the suppliers like Azerbaijan, Qatar believes that 20 or 25 years is long term. So how do the panelists see this big differentiation in terms of concept of long term to secure more gas to Europe? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll come to everyone on that, but Stoyan, perhaps you'd care to start.
Yes, just want to be more clear. Turkey is very close friend of Europe and Azerbaijan. I've worked when the war starts with your administration, automobile administration, about 45 days, 24/7. Regarding the evacuation of all cargos and trucks from Romania through Bulgaria, we created the green corridors, visas at the borders, everything. What I can say, there are 3 diplomats in the world. First is business, second is the culture, and third is the sport. So Turkey, you have very good diplomat connections with everybody. We appreciate the help and support that you are giving. But that was the situation in the beginning. I know that Botash is operating, but anyway, there is a lack of capacity for the infrastructure regarding the demands of the European Union at the moment, because as all of you know, that Nord Stream is closed for at the moment. And Europe must receive gas from somewhere. So Turkey and the Botash infrastructure is the only possible way at the moment.
Thank you.
That was the idea. Thank you.
Maurizio, would you care to comment on? No? Andrew? Minister?
We definitely appreciate. I mean, Turkey is, you cannot exaggerate the importance of our relationship, which is beyond anything. And there are very few, if not examples, if at all, of the closeness of the relationship. And I always say that, of course, the culture is very important, but Turkey was, with the collapse of the Soviet Union for Azerbaijan, it was window to modernity, right? Window to more progressive institutions and window to the Western world. And in that sense, again, Turkey played a significant role, continues to do that. We appreciate very much, together with our Georgian neighbor and some global supporters that we have had in the process. Regarding long-term contracts, yes, they are very significant. In Southern Gas Corridor Phase 1, right, we are talking about Phase 2. Expansion would be Southern Gas Corridor 2.0. In 1.0, we first secured agreements for about 25 years with our European off-takers, and then it went back to, again, start again. So you look at the price and you look at the volume and then calculate back how you can build pipelines and dig wells. Given the certain programs in Europe now, we see that there is not very much willingness for long-term contracts, as you say, so 10 years versus 25 years, which usually should be the case. That creates certain issues that we are working on to resolve, because there are many European institutions provide certain tools that could be helped utilized to circumvent that issue. One of them is like a purchase platform that the European Union came up with. So we are definitely working on that. That will be very significant because that will take away the uncertainty which investors don't like. And also we shouldn't forget that in Azerbaijan, it's definitely Azerbaijan's natural gas. But Azerbaijan's natural gas and oil is developed by international consortiums. Right? So it's sovereign land of Azerbaijan, but consortium eventually makes a decision. And among those consortium members, we have BPs, right? We have all many major Western, mostly it's Western corporation-led industry in Azerbaijan. So they need to be convinced that the prices and the certainty they get is enough for them to start developing new fields or existing fields, because hopefully the 10 BCM gas, as I was discussing, will come from some new fields like Ümit Babek, like Shafak Gasiman, but also existing fields also are discovered to have deep layers, which also is very rich in gas. And as we talk, literally right now, Azerbaijan is building appraisal wells to see, because you know that in Azerbaijan we have 2 huge fields, like 90% of our gas is coming from Shah Deniz, it's one huge gas field, and 90% of our oil comes from Azeri-Çırak Güneşli, one huge oil field. But now we are seeing that deeper layers have gas, both Shah Deniz and ACG, Azeri-Çırak Güneşli, have some gas, and we are exploring right now. Probably in a couple of months' time we will understand, but probably again, significant portion of that 10 BCM will be coming from there. But again, we are working on that, and we are still hopeful that by 2027 we'll be able to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No one at all on this side of the room? Ah, yes, please. Mike just coming to you now. Yeah.
A very, is it working? Yes. A very obvious question. How does Russia react?
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, we are not pursuing policies that is pro or for anything. It's always really for Azerbaijan. And I think that in the current structure of international system, where the basis for existence is sovereignty and territorial integrity, I think you always gain some respect. And this is Caucasus, right? In Caucasus, in the post-Soviet space, words matter, trust matters, right? Saying the same thing and doing exactly the same thing matters. You keep your promises. You don't play games. And I think what is amazing about my country's leadership was that we have been always open on our plans, and we have been always open that this is about Azerbaijan, and it's the welfare and security of Azerbaijanis that dictate this course of action. There was no surprises. There was no, oh my God, I was never told about this, right? Even vis-a-vis the current peace deal with Armenia, which we hope that after 30 years of occupation of Azerbaijan lands, there's really a chance to move forward. If you pay attention to how Azerbaijan leadership moves, we say what we do and we do what we say. And I think that's really gaining some respect from our neighbors. Thank God, our relationship with Russia has been faithful in the last 200 years, I would say, right? But at the same time, it's not an issue that comes up, right? So what is great you look around, and when you look at some other examples in the post-Soviet space, they took some steps, the results of which were not very good. I mean, however it ends up eventually, the process itself was very hurtful for all the involved sides. In the case of Azerbaijan, Russia has been playing a significant role, especially when it came to the occupation of Azerbaijan lands, which we liberated 2 years ago. But I think there is a huge deal of respect and understanding between the countries. And I expect the same situation to continue. Because right now, we pulled off. To me, the strategic course of Azerbaijani energy policy is already moving forward, right? I don't expect to have any new game-changing moves. We already have done it. The train is moving. What we can do is speed it up or maybe make it greener, but all the major decisions have been taken, all the major routes have been chosen, and if something have happened, it should have happened by now. If it hasn't happened, probably from now on it will be just a much smoother ride than before. Hopefully I made sense. Thank you.
Okay, well there'll be a, oh, where we are.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Nick. Marat Terterov, Brussels Energy Club. I came a little bit late, sadly, but I'm enjoying the questions and some of your responses. And just wanted to pick up on Elnur Soltanov's last point about the, let's say, consolidation of this strategic trajectory of Azerbaijan's sort of energy policy. And for me, this has actually been set in the late 90s and 2000s, and it's been essentially a kind of an east-west trajectory linking Kazakh hydrocarbons, with Azeri Kazakh partnerships in infrastructure and exporting those through Turkey onto international markets, European and international markets. So I think, we are seeing the consolidation of that. But I just wanted to ask you, also in light of your earlier point, focusing on Azerbaijan's sovereignty as a key priority of the state and of policy of the state. We are now in a slightly different geopolitical environment in the South Caucasus to what we were when Azerbaijan's strategic energy policies were being formulated. Azerbaijan has reclaimed territories. Mauro and I were actually just in Shusha. We had a wonderful opportunity to meet with your president just a few weeks ago in Shusha. So, you know, the tables have turned somewhat, and I'm just trying to think whether sovereignty still, while it remains a bedrock of your policy, and while the east-west trajectory, connectivity, remains a central pillar, if not the central pillar of your strategic orientation in the energy sector. I'm just trying to think about regionalism, regional cooperation. I'm thinking about Armenia. I'm thinking about Iran. From what I gather for you, while Armenia is a challenge in terms of having Armenians, let's say, accept the status quo of these gains, which is, of course, a challenge, but something that you're working on, and that may not be decided only in Yerevan and in Baku alone, of course. But Iran, relations with Iran are a little bit tricky, let's say, to put it diplomatically, at the moment. So I'm just trying to think whether, you know, it is just inevitable now that this east-west, you know, corridor from Kazakhstan through Turkey will be the status quo, and as you rightly say, it may be a little bit greener, it may be a little bit less green, you know, we can discuss that. But is there really any scope for regionalism? Is there any scope for, you know, a north-south environment? Is there any scope for an enhancement of your relationships with those countries in order to make the Caucasus not just an east-west corridor, but a hub for the region? Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to start with that?
Thank you so much. Very, very comprehensive question. And in my previous life, when I was working at a university as a dean and heading this energy center, I once upon a time wrote an article, and the title of the article was regarding Azerbaijan's energy policy, Balancing North and South Going West. I think that really, to me, somehow depicts what Azerbaijan has been doing. And another thing, and I'm again harking back to my years in academia, and so let me put my academia hat, because I'm still teaching one course. So if you refer to me that Elnur said that, I'll say that I said that as an academician, not as deputy minister. So in the post-Soviet space, when you look at kind of geopolitically, there have been two choices. Either you choose your sovereignty and then lose territory, or you choose territory and your sovereignty is challenged. In the case of Georgia, in the case of Moldova, in the case of Armenia, Azerbaijan, you can see that. And now what is going in Ukraine also partly about that. Do you want territory or do you want sovereignty? You choose territory, your territorial integrity, your sovereignty is compromised. You choose your sovereignty, you say that I'm the decision maker within my territory, then your territory is challenged, right? So with all due respect, to me, Armenia chose territory and not its own territory. And as a result, I think their sovereignty is compromised to such an extent that their borders sometimes are controlled by some other countries, not themselves. I think Azerbaijan will continue, probably, the course that it has taken, because, again, Azerbaijan took calculated risk, but it was very, very risky. The first two presidents failed in delivering along this route, along this strategy, but late Haydar Aliyev succeeded. And if you pay attention, in 1994, we signed a deal to stop the war in Karabakh, in the occupied territories, in May, and in 1994, September, we signed oil deal. Because somehow an oil deal was a call for sovereignty, right? It was a drive for sovereignty. But you had to freeze the territory issue because you couldn't have done both at the same time. It doesn't work in the post-Soviet space. But now, as your sovereignty is intact, you made your decisions, you enriched your country, now you can go and reclaim your territory. And this is what happened, really. So the strategy was, to me, in retrospect, quite amazing and fantastic. And also, as I mentioned, for instance, and we are really looking forward, the Second Karabakh War to be the last war ever, and there are chances for durable peace to happen. And one of the examples I always give is that As you know, liberated territories has been declared as green energy zone and net zero environment till 2050. Karabakh, the liberated territories are going to be net zero. And this is one of the COP26 commitments that we have taken. That means that all the electricity will be green energy, for instance, green electricity. Ansaldo has been playing a great role in rebuilding of Karabakh. And BP, United Kingdom's BP, is building 240 megawatt solar station in liberated territories. And this is huge, right? So that kind of a power plant will be electrifying about 120,000 homes. So this is quite industrial scale plant. And that electricity will come to decarbonize oil and gas processing in Baku area, by the way. And what I'm bringing this to in the context of your questions, in 1990s, and those who are, and I'm sure that most of you are very familiar with the literature, there was this deal that in return for the peace in Karabakh, Azerbaijan is ready to choose Armenia as its energy partner, right? For all the pipelines or the routes could go through Armenia, because literally Armenia was the shortest route actually to Turkey and all the way to world markets. But so let's have peace. Let's let Azerbaijan have what is its own territories, and in return there are peace dividend in terms of energy partnership with all the consequences that we have. It didn't work out then. And then the second most important choice was Georgia. And if you look at the map now, all the pipelines, oil gas pipelines, not just one of them, pass through Georgia. Our railway passes through Georgia, which used to be passing through Armenia, by the way. We say that after 30 years, another opportunity have arisen for the same thing we tried and failed in 1990s to be done this time. Because now, if this Zangezur corridor is opened between Azerbaijan and Armenia, now, because thank God we have additional gas now, thank God we are embarking on renewable energy drive, our new energy infrastructure now could pass through Armenia. And as we are so close to peace, it won't be just about ending war, it will be also about this peace dividend, these positive externalities that could come from energy cooperation between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And to me, Georgia's importance is that in Georgia you have sizable Azerbaijani minority. In Azerbaijan you have sizable Georgian minority. But still we cooperated, we benefited together, and as I said today, Georgia receives all of its gas, for instance, along with many other consequences, positive consequences from Azerbaijan. That could have been Armenia, or Armenia could have taken a role in the process if we didn't have that occupation issue. But as we are looking forward for a peace deal, to me there are a lot of promises that beyond peace, the economic dividends could be huge. And as you know, Azerbaijan has its own Alaska, if you like, right? We have this exclave called Nakhchivan, which is internal part of southern Azerbaijan, but which is separate, physically separate from the mainland. In between, you have Armenia. And because of the war, in 30 years' time until today, it's blockaded, right? We cannot, from mainland to Azerbaijan, we had pipelines going to Nakhchivan exclave. We had electricity lines, cables going to Nakhchivan. All of them were cut off. All of them were plundered physically. Railway was plundered. Right now, and because of that, in fact, we were having very difficult times with providing Nakhchivan's energy and using different countries for that purpose. So as this peace moves forward and Azerbaijan has this route through Armenian territory to its Nakhchivan exclave, this means gas pipeline, this means electricity pipelines, this means end of Nakhchivan's blockade, and this means another route to Turkey and from Turkey to other parts of the world, right? And then we will be just like with Georgia, we have been benefiting from the correct decisions, strategic decisions. Now Armenia becomes part and parcel of this energy dividend, peace dividend that could come along. So to summarize the answer to your question, I think all in all, the main direction will be kept there. The novelty could be Armenia joining this festivity that we have been benefiting ourselves and our partners, and the result will be peace and prosperity for everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Right, Andrew, I see you.
Not our brothers, the Iranians.
I see you're keen to come in on this.
Well,
Okay, I'll come back to that.
If I can just add, yeah, just add an idea actually which Minister Soltanov actually said, and that is the role of renewable energies. And in fact, Stoyan Novikov said a little bit earlier, diplomacy goes through business, culture, sport, and the local diplomacy also looking east, looking to Iran through renewable energies could actually be a very interesting option. I mean, in my introduction, I focused on CCS and hydrogen, but actually the solar and wind potential is perhaps large enough to build cooperations in this area and do diplomacy through renewable energy, local renewable, because electricity doesn't travel well. You're not going to export that to Europe, but locally that could be very interesting.
I'll come to concluding remarks in a minute, which will give everyone a chance, but I'll take one more question from the back of the room now.
Hi, David Abiago, journalist for Argus Media. Had a question for Mr. Soltanov concerning, so we're going through the various phases of the EU joint purchasing platform. I was wondering how you see that platform. You know, I mean, even if it's on a technical basis, is it difficult to use? Do you see problems? And what commitment in terms of volumes of gas do you think that you'll be able to supply in the end? Thanks.
Thank you for the question. So the value chain of gas, right, as you know, it's upstream, it's midstream, it's downstream. Regarding upstream, there is clarity. Probably it will be difficult to get financial support from European institutions, given the Repower EU program and all the consequences that stem from that. Because, for instance, EBRD, EIB, they are saying that in their new programs there is not much space for upstream development. So there will be difficult in terms of financing. Then naturally the focus kind of moves down to the financing of the pipelines and the latest point in the value chain regarding supply and the purchases, especially long-term purchases. We are working that. I think the things are moving much better in that direction. And in early May, as we were here with Minister Shahbazov, Minister of Energy of Azerbaijan, discussions with Ms. Madam Kadri Simpson, EU Commissioner for Energy. The second part of the meeting was meeting between technicians, the Energy Directorate, and SOCAR representatives went on to discuss how this purchasing platform could be utilized. We look at that as one of the many other tools that are made available, financial and otherwise, that there are specific amounts of gas that they are talking about, right? So usually, purely economically speaking, when you monopolize buying, purchasing, that has certain consequences. But we believe that there are certain, so I talked to my SOCAR partners, represented by Vice President of SOCAR, one of the Vice Presidents of SOCAR was here, and he participated in those meetings. He said that the earlier impressions were quite well. So they believe that among the tools that they are going to utilize, that could be one of the tools. So he was more hopeful after the meeting than it was before. So that's what I could tell for now. Again, you know that the this platform has some volumes there. I believe it's hovering around 13 BCM from the buyer's perspective. From seller's perspective, we have 10 BCM to sell. So whichever amount more we sell, happier we are.
Okay, we come to the end of the formal part proceedings. So final thoughts, Stoyan?
Finally, it was a very nice presentation, and what I like most was many pipes, many happiness. So that's the conclusion. We have more volumes to sell and to utilize to Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. Maurizio.
Yes, just to follow up Marat, my friend, what he said, and the geopolitical issues that also the minister said. You were not here at the beginning of my presentation, but I spoke about the EU waking up again to the South Caucasus strategy that they had since 10 years, the Eastern Partnership, and how this external support can help the local integration, the regional integration. The last weekend we had the President of Azerbaijan and Prime Minister of Armenia here. And the peace is going together with the economy. And also this is the role of Turkey, because Turkey is also the leader of the Organization of Turkey States. And the regional organization are always useful against great power competition. So Central Asia, Turkey, Azerbaijan, all the Turkic states can defend themselves, because when you are integrated like European Union, it's very difficult for the great power competition to meddling. So that's my final remarks regarding the geopolitics. And regarding the green energy, I'm very happy that Italy is supporting also the green transition. And as I said, we can do even more, because I think it's a peer relationship. We can learn from you, you can learn from us, and we can go on in the future also further more than 2050.
Andrew.
So I'd just like to repeat my message at the beginning, and that is clearly Azerbaijan is strategically on a very good path, knows what it's doing, great confidence, but the green transition. Watch out for the green transition. It might come quicker than you think.
Minister or Professor, whichever way you want to go about it.
Both probably, so that I can use a library in case something goes wrong. But I really thank the panel participants. I thank you for the great chairmanship. I thank everybody involved listening and asking nice, challenging questions. Probably with Mr. Tartarov, we can continue our discussion later on now. But very briefly, I think Azerbaijan, story of Azerbaijan shows how first calculated, risky maybe, but correct decisions could eventually create dividends to be collected, and how the first moves could create trails which could be expanded into highways, right? So this oil move, we are still riding the coattails of this 1994 push by late Haydar Aliyev, the successful push. We built on the same momentum our gas saga, and now we are building, definitely listening to you as well, our green energy saga. So in 3 waves, where the first wave was most important, most risky, but worked, we built our gas plan, and now we are building our renewable energy plans, including green hydrogen and green ammonia. And also, it happened with cooperation, right? Mutual commitments with countries like Georgia, with countries like Turkey, with our partners in Europe, including the United States, actually. And what is amazing is that those mutual commitments resulted in mutually beneficial outcomes, both in terms of energy security and in terms of prosperity. And we are looking forward to add new members to that process, to benefit together, to commit together, including Armenia, actually, for which we are moving forward to peace deal, to commit together, to commit to the basic principles of international law, and benefit together from the almost endless energy resources of Azerbaijan. Thank you.
Thank you. And now please all stay for some food and drink and a chance to mingle, to buttonhole, to network. Thank you.